Yes, we are live. Uh, so, are we discussing variables today? So, I can share the screen. So, Meta released the SDKs for building apps for uh, their glasses. And yeah, so like one of my ideas was like to have these glasses, and then you could control. So the I have connected a lot of my lab stuff to a common computer, and then I can control it with my phone. But my idea was I could just do the entire thing via these glasses, but they are quite expensive right now, so it's more than 1,500 euros or something. At least the display one. I think without the AR one, they are a little cheaper, maybe 300 to 400.
How
But yeah, this is like a interesting tech. I would
how
like
do
to
you
try
see
out.
controlling glasses?
So like I have
How do
a
you see
mm,
controlling robots using that?
so basically like once I have the MCP server running, and then I can just open up. Uh, so I have a cloud server running on my computer, and then what I do is like I log into that computer via Tailscale, and then I can just and then I have a text voice to text on my phone. Then I can just talk to cloud on my phone, which is logged into my server, and that server is basically the MCP server for the robots. So it could be like
But are you
any
using the
Can
glasses
you
as anything more than a
can you
display?
sorry, can you explain that again, Anuraj? What, like, go a bit slower?
so am I audible clearly? At least
Yeah, yeah,
the
you're audible. You just you said your full stack very quickly, and I wasn't able to understand it.
okay. So what I have is maybe I can show it. Uh, So I have this post of controlling on using Cloud Code on your phone. So if you point your Cloud session to this blog post, it should be able to know how to set the entire thing up. So basically, you need a app called Termius, so which is basically iOS terminal or like shell provider. So it opens up a it allows you to log in via SSH to different uh, computers, and then provides a shell. And once you are in that computer, you can start Claude in that. And then Tailscale is basically my personal VPN, so I am not exposing anything to the outside internet. So I run my own tailnet, and then I have like kind of a little bit hardened my network by only allowing Tailscale logins. So only my devices can log into my internal network. And then once you have this setup, you can just log into your computer, and then I have one another app which converts my voice to text. So once I'm logged in to my local cloud server, and then I don't have to type on my I can type, but like I just talk to my phone, and then the cloud is interpreting that as the commands to be executed, and then it executes it on my computer. And since I have my MCP for the robots running on the same computer, I can just control all the hardware I have connected by talking to it.
That's really great. Can you link this just in the
Yeah.
chat? I might try to set this up.
So
I had already for your virtual machine. Did you use like a droplet, or did you use like
yeah, initially I was using a droplet, but what you can do is like I have a local Ubuntu machine, which I kind of use as my local server and cloud server, which I remotely log into.
yeah, and
Uh, and then I
and
have
that local Ubuntu machine, is that like is that server like Do you mean that that's a computer that sits in your home, or is it still a virtual machine?
Yeah, it's right now it's a machine that sits in my in
Yeah.
my
So it's like
room.
so it's basically the traditional stack of like having a Mac Mini that just runs 24/7.
Yeah, yeah. But I have it on Ubuntu.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. So I think that makes sense. Um, interesting.
And you can actually like point to your Claude session to these two blog posts. It's also it's actually written by Claude partly, and then I made some adjustments, and so you can just point to those links, and then we'll set up the entire thing for you. And I also have some scripts that I have put it on my GitHub, so it should download uh, those scripts, and then you can like just ask Claude whatever you want to set it up.
Yeah, because one of the things that I've been like trying to get to is um, I want I want basically like terminal access on my phone, which is what you're describing, like Termius, right?
Yes.
Of the computer where I'm managing Claude. But like you said, you want it to be secure. Like I basically only want my own phone to be able to have access to that, and I want that like with Face ID.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I have a small script which I call like secure SSH. So what it does is turns on the firewall on your server, whichever machine server you are using, and then it only allows the tailnet devices to log in and shuts rejects all other requests. So you cannot log in from the public internet. So
yeah,
it has to
that's
come via
exactly.
tailnet.
Exactly, and that's what I wanted, which is like you want like pure hardware connection, like like I want my phone hardware to be the permitted like thing, not like just random internet thing.
Yeah.
Okay, this is super useful. This is I might try to set this up this weekend. That's cool.
Yeah.
And then
So
and
right
then
now,
so
yes.
one reaction to this. This means that in general we're moving to a place where similar to how individuals used to have access to like data, like a data pool, like a Google Drive 24/7. It's almost like we're moving to a
Hmm.
place where people have like access to a GPU/CPU 24/7, which is different than just having a file drive accessible, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
So
cool.
you could also set this up on a cloud. So I have a Herzner cloud, which I have occasionally use it, and it's but my local machine is much more powerful, and it's kind of long term it's cheaper to have, because since I already have the hardware. But you could also have the same setup in the cloud, either DigitalOcean or on Herzner. So basically, my idea was, instead of using the phone, I just set the entire thing up with this display classes, and then I have kind of a variable where I can control and talk to my robots. But yeah, when this becomes cheaper, I might try it.
Well, I have two questions, Anuraj. Question number one is, how is this different from using your iPhone and holding it in front of your face? And question number two, I understand how we control agents, and monitor them all the time, but how do you do it with robots? What do you do? I mean, you're controlling them all the time, but what do you do?
Right now, I'm just making it dance or move forward and backward. But if it would be a cleaning robot, I could just ask it to clean. And for about using the phone, it's just a little less hassle than unlocking the phone. I can just do everything by doing some other chores. Let's say I'm washing the dishes, and I want the robot to do something. I don't have to open my phone. Uh, separately. I can just look into the glasses and talk to it.
Could you potentially, Anuraj, use an Apple Watch for this? Like,
Yeah, so
because,
yes, you
because
can use many of the variables which has some sort of talking interface.
yeah, the because I feel like with the Apple Watch, you could at least test out the experience of the glasses in a little, like without paying the $1,500, right? Like you could get like a secondhand like Apple Watch if you already don't have one, and you can probably not only test like voice commands, but you could probably test some gestures too because it has a gyroscope, right?
Yeah. So this
Just a different, yeah,
display,
yeah.
this
It
comes with
wouldn't have a
the.
display though. It's not really display, right? It would have to be like pinging or voices or something.
So this Meta Ray-Ban display has a armband, and you are basically doing gestures on your fingers, and the armband recognizes those gestures and converts it into those some commands.
Okay.
And I think Google is also going to come up with some sort of glasses. So this glass interface is going to be a big thing, at least to the LLMs or agent interface. It's just more seamless compared to a phone, it seems.
And, and Venkatesh, what is a Korean shooter versus a Turkish shooter?
Oh, you haven't seen the meme? Let me find an example and see.
Yeah,
It's
it's like
really it's really good. Yeah, find the
Yeah, good discussion. Let me share that, and then it's a good discussion provocation. All right. Yeah, that one. So yeah, this meme got famous, and it's a little unfair to the Korean shooter. Both of them won medals at the Olympics, but the point was the Korean shooter had like all sorts of fancy equipment, like the blinder
Yeah.
and other stuff. And this Turkish guy kind of just wanders in a t-shirt with his hands in his pocket and wins silver. So I've been thinking a lot
Yeah.
about this, and it's I think a question that shows up anytime you're talking about the right interfaces to machines. How complex do you want to make it? Um, yeah,
Yeah.
and just to abstract a little bit from what Anuraj and Rafa were talking about, uh, coding agent harness is actually kind of a variable if you think about it, right? Even though most of it is in software, the human is as much inside the harness as the coding agent. Because to use it effectively, I don't know if you guys have the same experience I have, but I find I have to like sort of like set up the harness to discipline myself as much as I have to discipline the agent. Like,
Hmm.
make myself do certain startup and shut down rituals, keep things clean and systematic. So it's kind of like a software type harness, software type variable. So you're wearing the harness, right? Even the word is kind of revealing. You're wearing the harness, and the agent
Yes.
is wearing the harness too. And together you're becoming kind of a, uh, I don't know, transhuman two agent entity. So that's one thing I was thinking of. And I think I sort of favor minimalism. So I was using, I still use remote control. So I start the session on my laptop and control it from my phone or iPad. It's not super reliable. Sometimes the connection drops. But I find that's about my limit. And I find more than I don't know, haptic or sensory or voice versus typing type issues. My biggest issue with uh, designing the wearable harness for myself is just cognitive load. For example, I've discovered that I can at most parallel wipe code on 3 terminals at once. Beyond that, the situation awareness gets too murky and the context
Messy.
switching messes up badly. I find that's kind of where my um, bottleneck is. Not so much as like I don't think it would make maybe Anuraj is different, but I don't think it would make any difference to me to be able to talk to um the agent or I don't know use my
I
to.
disagree with you, Venkat. Imagine that I'm controlling 20 robots, and each one is spatially located
I'm not
somewhere.
talking about robots right now. I'm only talking about just using Cloud Code to code. So and personal. Other people may have different experiences, but yeah, definitely for controlling robots, yeah, you kind of want a more direct sensory variable. So yeah, I haven't yet done any experimenting on that front.
Yeah, my experience is I have not been able to get into the voice control of agents because the bandwidth of data exchange is not high enough. So like you can read whatever 700 words per minute or whatever it is. You can't listen to 700 words per minute. Um, it just you can't do it. So like when I'm working with agents, um, I need to be able to see like basically a big screen of like a feed that I can like navigate and I can like I can type quicker than I can talk as well. So I'm not very good like I have to sit at a computer for agent management.
But this AR displays change the things, right? So
No,
I think
because
it
I
increase.
still can't talk as quickly as I can type.
Yeah, but like you can make gestures on these so apps.
I
So
guess
Rings.
basically,
I guess if the agent is clever enough that I'm navigating a decision tree and not necessarily talking, I think that may be like a potential, like,
So
I can
let
see
me ask
that.
you a question, Rafa. Like, I think a good metric for how you're using at least coding agents, not controlling robots, but coding agents. For me, I find it's that loop of, Claude Code is constantly asking you approve or deny this action or approve once or approve for this session. So I would say 90% of my uh, input interactions with Claude Code is just saying yes. So that's
Mm,
when I can see
I,
improving with audio. If I'm going on a walk, it'll ask me,
yeah.
can I run this command? And I'll probably tune it out and just say yes. It's not 700 words. It's like one sentence prompt. It'll be like, can I run this shell
So,
command or can I change directory? And
so
I'll be like, yes.
my take on that is that that's a temporary band-aid to a security harness weakness. And I don't think you're going to end up saying yes to a lot of stuff unless you're actually doing editorial work on a project. So, like, I don't think there's a world where I have to press yes while I go on a walk in a year. I think it's more likely I'm going to delegate authority based on patterns that I've already approved within whatever sandbox environment that they like innovate on. So I just don't see that future becoming a reality unless it's
I
like
disagree. I
temporarily.
think this is going to be extremely personality driven. And I actually really like having that like very close situation awareness where even if I'm 90% of the time saying yes, and of that 90%, 80% I don't even understand what it's asking me. Like I use the
Yeah.
command it has used, but still I find that if I'm not paying attention at the 90% default yes level, I actually don't know when to interrupt and override and say, no, pause here. Here, I actually want to make a strategic decision because I can't actually predict at what point in the low level flow of details something will pop
Mm,
up that I'm going to need to interrupt. And what people are doing with like, one shotting or like defining a task at a high level and walking away and letting it run for 3 hours and coming back, that doesn't work for me at all. Not because it does something bad or dangerous, but because I'm not in the OODA loop, it simply goes off on its own tangent and does something like not even wrong. So I've found
mm,
a personal style thing, and in a year, I think we'll see dozens of different styles emerging. My personal style is kind of like fairly close mindful awareness of the I would say, minute to minute tempo of decisions that the agent is making, with 10% unpredictable reactive overrides.
Yeah. I see. Okay. I see that. Okay. Yes. I can be convinced of that, but I think that's less of approvals. So I still think that that's compatible with my view of the world, which is you're not doing approvals in the fact of like running a bash command, but you're inside the OODA loop in some way. For example, it might be saying, I'm making this decision now, and like you're in the feed, right?
Yeah. So this is a problem that has been sort of like cropping up in all sorts of human in the loop control problems. It's an old problem. So here's what happens. If all you're doing is what you could call spectatoring, as in you're not actively having to say yes or no or something, you tend to tune out much faster than you think. So they've seen this in like autopilots for planes, they've seen it for
Yes.
driverless cars. So it's actually
Yeah.
a good UX pattern for the autonomous loop to occasionally interrupt you, even for a very boring command. Like, it doesn't really need you to say, yes, you can change directory and run ls. That's, a boring safe,
Yeah.
but it needs to interrupt you every 10, 15 seconds unpredictably to make sure you're awake and paying attention.
Yes.
I think that's
Yeah. And I think this is the difference between are you collaborating with an AI as a co-pilot or as a passenger?
Mhm.
And like if you're on the passenger train, there are some projects where you are a passenger, you actually you don't need the interruptions. You can fall asleep and come back 4 hours later and your trip is over, right? And see what came out. Like a research report that you needed on a specific industry thing, like the deep research type of like go for 3 hours, do my deep research and then come back. Versus like the co-pilot, which is the co-building. I agree with you, which is the pattern is that type that will be similar to the autopilot on a flight, which is the 15-second like pinging, like this is happening, like check this, like yeah.
And I think there will be a fork where that kind of stuff increasingly it'll become ritualized in a different way. So, for example, several tasks of that type that have been happening for me is um, embedding large corpuses of data into a vector database, right? So usually the way that happens is I've got 500 PDF files that I want to ingest into the vector database, and I say I want to do it this way with this kind of like meta tagging, blah blah blah, and that's like maybe 10 minutes of fairly high interactive decision making. Then it does a trial run of trying to ingest 2 or 3 PDFs, and if that goes well, it says, "All right, now starting the task." And usually these end up in batch mode API access where it's not even in the loop at all. It's a background task. So I'm seeing a lot of that. So there's almost a foreground background distinction. But I think there's also it's still not passenger. This is I don't know, more like factory supervisor than passenger. What you're calling passenger, I think that UX has not yet merged. Like Claude is
Yeah.
pushing a co-work type of retail.
Yeah.
That's not
Yeah.
CLI. But yeah, my wife, for example, is still pretty much only using the chat interface. The agent harness hasn't yet been invented for retail, I think.
Yeah, that is correct. I did a training, I did an AI enablement training. Let me just get this for you guys so you guys can see. Where I started so these are the slides, and this is the second working session that we're doing, but there's
Wait,
like some
I
cheat
don't
sheet.
see anything, Rafa.
Oh, sorry. I can share my screen. Okay. So this is like a second working session. Can you see my screen?
In a second.
Yep.
Yeah. Today's agenda.
Yeah. So we've been talking about, I've been training this person about understanding the different modes and AI tooling at a retail level. She wants to start with code because she's like a financial advisor and wants to be doing like more advanced financial analytics. And so, but she doesn't know like terminal basics and like day to day, like how to use Claude day to day and so on. And the next topic, the next working session is going to be about building an operational context center. So this is the context pool, Venkat, that you've built for C3PO and Humboldt differently, but it's the same type of thing. And we've been going through kind of like building this stuff, but as you said, she finds it extremely, she knows that the potential is there, but she's hired now an automation operator that basically sits with her an hour a day or an hour every 2 days while she does like Claude code. So I've been doing more of the strategic like training to like the framework stuff, but she has like an analyst basically now helping her, and she's hired the equivalent of an Excel guru because it's not accessible enough. Anyways.
Well, now that you've shown it, why don't you tell us a bit about the two dials of automation and risk? I thought that they were very tightly coupled.
Yeah, I mean, this is simply about like, if you do like fewer permissions in Claude Code and say go at it, and it's on your computer because it has the most access to information. I mean, you can really wreck your computer. So like I think that's oh, Spencer's back. So I've been talking to her. She deals with financial data from clients, right? So she needs to be careful around what permissions she actually allows because she might muddle client data together by accident. Like Claude Code doesn't know that your data file should never be mixed with my data file. We're two different clients, and she
Right.
shouldn't send me a report on a financial portfolio that like has your finances and net worth calculation in it, right? Like there's a bunch of GDPR and like regulation stuff.
Yeah.
So she's in a more sensitive industry.
Got it. Okay, thank you. So,
But sorry for the tangent. I do agree for robots, like being able to control robots for via the glasses makes much more sense.
But even otherwise, like just attending, let's say, Discord meetings. So sometimes on Fridays evenings, I'm like just walking here around the lake, and the governance calls happens at the same time. With the phone, it's like a little more annoying than just having the classes. I would say. So it's a lot of the other things also becomes much more easier with the classes instead of mm, using it via a phone. But that's my personal preference. I don't know about others.
it seems to me like we're talking about two different kinds of things. One is using wearables as a assistance to robotics. We're not talking about wearable robotics yet at all. And the other one is using wearables as an interface, but for software robots. And whether we're talking about gestures or glasses or a voice control, which is a kind of wearable because it has to be with you all the time. So which one are we more interested in this? Yeah.
And there's a third kind in which, like the bionics, in which you're kind of having a prosthetic, right?
Well, the fourth kind,
Which
but yeah. Yeah.
so prosthetics is also kind of a robot, but integrated more tightly integrated, I guess.
So which one are we talking about? I mean, these are very different types.
Right now, what I have is like kind of one and two, what you described. Uh, so one is the harness for the robot or the cloud code itself, and the second one is kind of like cloud code controlling the robot via that interface.
Yeah, because what Venkatesh talked about controlling his agent while he's walking. So Wolfram has this keyboard computer that when he goes on walks, he continues typing and programming and so on.
Well, like I like even the coding part. Like, why would you type? You are like mostly not typing, right? You are just making decisions, and
Bandwidth,
Cloud Code
bandwidth.
is making the doing the typing for you. That's how. So you don't need to be
No,
on a computer, do you?
no. Just 1 second. Making decisions is one thing, but setting up what decision needs to be made is another. If you trust the computer to decide what needs to be decided, you might get useless decisions. You get up in the morning and you're hungry, and the robot tells you, what kind of bowl do you want? Tell him what kind of bowl do you want? Where do you want it positioned on the table? Okay, keeps on asking you questions, but he never says, do you want cornflakes or Cheerios? So at some point, you have to tell him, you're off center here. Offer me a food material, not just a type and location of the dish. So you can't avoid providing real input and not just decisions.
So I'll share my experience on that. I think in practice, the agentic coding uh, agents have pretty good judgment on actually what to like not bother you with, what to like frame as decisions for your input, and uh, when to like pause and ask for like more architectural type input. So it's surprisingly good, and I suspect it's a function of domain, because coding is a domain where there's a huge amount of training data as well as meta training data, as in like programmers have been writing blog posts about like good architecture practices and stuff.
Hmm.
Coding agents, I would say it works really well. It does. I've never felt like it's asking me what type of bowl do I want to use instead of like eggs or cereal. So there's a domain dependence on how well it understands. Where I find that often I have to interrupt is uh, sometimes it just doesn't know what my priorities are because I've never had a chance to declare them, right? Like I just wipe coded a site and it tends to make like default design decisions on the fly. Like it made it black background with white text and that kind of thing. It was an okay design for something, but it was not at all the direction I was going. So I had to interrupt and say, no, not that way. Copy the design from this other site. But interestingly, you like previously you would have had to like say quite a lot of stuff to like explain what you want, but increasingly with coding agents, at least just a slight hint with an example does the trick. Like you can say
Yeah.
something like, yeah, so the amount of like actual things you have to say, I find like early on, I think when I didn't have much experience, I was talking too much. After that, I learned to like ask it the right questions to think for itself, point it to examples, or just give a slight hint. So the amount of input you need, even in the very strategic decisions, is
I,
fairly minimal. It's like
I
maybe,
agree.
yeah.
I agree. My experience is similar. It's the thing that has definitely changed in terms of how I give instructions is my repository of good examples is increasing by the day. So like I'm ending up with a curated set of like examples. So I say I want to create something, and then I say I want you to take this from this from this from this. But then when I create this, now I have a new example. So like the my communication is moving from verbal descriptions to like artifact orientation.
Well, one of the things that you're doing is you're shifting the probabilities from the world today, where you have to say everything, to the world that Anuraj hinted at, where you just make decisions. But in the end, there's still cases where you need to provide real input, and just now they're more rare, and maybe you don't even notice them because the computer's overwhelming you. But you're not avoiding them. Wow, everybody's in agreement.
Meyer, this is Spencer. What is your either hobby or working relationship with these types of agents? Is it very different from what Rafa or Venkat, their use case, I guess?
Sadly, I don't have the time to dig into enough. I'm mainly looking and seeing what other people are doing and how they're using them. For work, there's some issues having to do with how long does it take to do versus how long does it take to check.
Mm,
Particular, my problem is that I still believe that I have to understand what's going on, and part of the understanding comes from doing. So the more the robot does it all by itself, the less I actually understand. And I have had several examples like that
mhm.
where I let it do it. It did an okay job, and then later I realized that if I would have done it, it would have been better because I would have thought about it more than the robot can do.
Yeah. I'm in pretty early stages myself and just also trying to decide my personal approach or philosophy, I guess, of how much I let it run wild versus kind of what you're describing of keeping more of a decision making process. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe if this is off track, we don't have to go here. But I just saw, I think it was Andre Karpathy tweet about fully automating his Obsidian knowledge base, where the agent is both writing and organizing the notes, and it just grows and grows with time, and he can search for what he wants. And for me, I am one of the people that finds the note making is the thing. Like, it's nice to have the artifact, but in building the note, you're making the map in your mind as well. And I haven't seen yet how that's replicated, um, when
Um,
you just have it all
so
made for you.
Matt Webb recently had a post. I'm actually not sure how recently, in the last month and a half, where he talks about the risk of AI caused psychosis. Why? He says because when you read a note and it's something that you wrote, it looks like something you wrote, but you completely don't recognize it. You get kind of confused. Okay, so you're letting the AI into your brain, okay, because your notes are just an extension of your long-term memory and brain, and it and you don't know what's going on. So that's his take on having the AI write notes. So maybe it needs to be more compartmentalized. I mean, it could be, that in 2 years we're going to have a meeting of us, but it won't be us. Each one of us will be a person with 20 instances of Claude running in the background, and we've turned into a Borg of some kind.
I
One of
think,
us.
yeah, I think the thing that I struggle with this, but I do think what you're saying is true, and what Karpathy was, like the outcome of Karpathy's thing of like automated note taking is like kind of defeats the purpose. Like it's like information hoarding, like because you're not actually processing. But I still think it can be useful for like auto research. So you're like abstracting yourself a layer up in terms of what you're synthesizing. But it also reminds me of my parents used to complain that I didn't learn the local map anymore. So like
Mm.
I would be like in my house and I would use Google Maps to go to the grocery store, which is 5 minutes away. And I never like even though like if I had just driven it like twice, I would have learned where the grocery store was. But instead, I had to drive it like 100 times because every time I was like using Google Maps, so the information didn't like sink in. Now
Lost
Rafa,
you.
we can't hear you.
Wait, he's checking Google Maps.
Can you guys hear me? I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I might
Now
have
we
dropped
can
out.
hear you.
Yeah. Well, it made me a better driver internationally. My parents can't navigate a city they've never been in.
Right.
Like but it made me a worse driver locally because I'm driving a little bit like a foreigner inside my own like town. And so I think we're going to see something similar like happening with like information processing with agents, where I don't think it's as clear as you're not processing your notes. It's like you're learning to do a different type of data processing that might have been out of reach before.
That is completely true, but consider the following. You spent 10 years of your career learning how to do X, and now you're starting from zero, because what you're really learning to do is how to control other people doing X. And there are a lot of other people starting from zero at exactly the same skill level as you have. So the question is going to be, how does your actual knowledge bleed in? So if you said you have a special experience of how to choose the best grocery store, that makes total sense. You choose a grocery store, and your little slave tells you how to get there. But if not, then you're just the same as me when I come to your city and I look for a grocery store and follow the instructions. Okay, so you're building a new skill, but you're starting from zero, and a lot of other people are starting from zero. And the question is whether what you've learned before is providing any leverage. Of course, it's a decision that we need to make. Because I read a different article, but I can't remember which one it was, who wrote it. He talked about two different kinds of understanding. One is editorial understanding, where you're able to talk about it and explain it and so on. And the other one is where you're actually able to do it. So I'm completely happy with the idea that going to the grocery store um, would be something that I didn't actually know how to do without special assistance. But other things, maybe not. Like washing dishes. Okay, washing dishes is perhaps the skills that you need to have.
I don't know. Dishwashers are pretty good nowadays. Do you really need that? I mean, I'm joking. I'm joking. Obviously, you should probably know how to wash dishes, but I do know a couple people who like don't quite know how to wash dishes anymore. They just have always used a dishwasher.
Listen, 30 some odd years ago at work, I had somebody who used a dishwasher, and I told her, but the dishes come out dirty. She said, that's not a problem. I just put them back in. Okay. She had gotten past the point where she knew how to wash dishes. She knew how to monitor that the dishes came out clean. But as you can imagine, the fights go from who's going to wash the dishes to who's going to load the dishwasher. So for family life, nothing really changes.
Some people don't even unload it. They just use the dishwasher as their dish storage as well.
Yeah, I know them, but we have too many people living here to do that. Or not enough dishwashers.
This discussion reminds me of that we had in CADS, McElroy versus a Nuth discussion, in which I think like Karthik had posted a comment, and it said that every augmentation is an amputation. So I think that rings here. So basically, when you are augmenting yourself with some tech, you are kind of amputating some other skill or something related, which you become like unable to do. I posted that link. Uh, so
Yeah, but why is that a problem? I mean, I don't think it's true. I don't think it's true. Why is it a problem?
it's not a problem, but it's like you kind of make a trade-off, right?
Yeah,
Why isn't it a problem? I mean, if we take the example of the map, the Google Map and so on, Google Maps is very powerful,
Well-
very convenient, but a lot of people are unable to read a map after that. It's this is the image, right? Augmented
yeah, but
manipulation, right?
Eric, you also don't know how to hunt a buffalo. You gave that
No,
up.
right. But when we say it's not a problem until it is, right? I mean, I often go to places where Google Maps just doesn't work, right?
Yeah, I've had that
You
problem.
should, Eric. You don't have that problem if you stop going to the places where Google Maps doesn't work.
No, it's actually the other way around. I was riding my bike and they just opened a new road with a wonderful bike path that connected, point A to point B, which I wanted to get to. And it didn't appear in Google Maps. Okay. So it's a loss of opportunity, not so much a problem. You know?
Yeah, I think this is where the skill arbitrage kind of comes into play, where like if we use the analogy again of LLMs, kind of like a different Google Maps, but potentially for coding or language or something, there are areas where the LLM doesn't reach into today, right? And like there's going to be this like psychological mistake where you might overextend the LLM's reach into something that doesn't exist, and then you go there and the LLM does like gives you really, really bad advice or like doesn't know how to deal with it. But I'm not 100% sure, because this is what they talk about like the jagged frontier in terms of LLMs. And yeah, I don't know what those areas are or if they're even relevant to me. Like, but I do know, for example, that LLMs can be good at relationship advice, but they can also be very bad at relationship advice. One of my sister-in-law is trying to use LLMs as like relationship management software, and I mean it's pretty bad. Like she's not doing too hot with that.
It's been trained on the
Yeah.
best teen magazines out there.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, I think there's jaggedness will come into play a lot, and there's like you said, Eric, there's just areas where Google Maps doesn't work, and I think there will be areas where LLMs just don't quite work.
But it's
So
also similar
innovation may be one
to
of them, by the way. Innovation and novelty may be one of them.
Right now they are.
Because
But
it looks like LLM are super powerful. We have recently several reports about, in mathematics, we had one of the conjecture that was disproven like last week, something like that. And the thing that the way it was done with the LLM, and for apparently it was not only the LLM, okay, a lot of people were involved in that, okay? But basically at the core was an LLM, what is Gemini or something like that, okay? Where the basically what the observers, of what happened say is that the LLM put together pieces of mathematics that usually are not put together. So you have mathematicians. There are many flavors of them. Specialists in topology, specialists in arithmetics, specialists in whatever subdiscipline existed, set theory, stuff like that. Okay? And so apparently the LLM found something in one domain and apply it in another domain where usually these people don't talk to each other. Okay, so basically, looks like it's a very smart search engine, basically, right? Okay, and with the ability to apply stuff to each other, right? And sorry, I lost my point now.
yeah, but in general, like the context increases with LLMs on at least on code basis. So I've been like starting a new project, and then I've been like I got familiar with a 6-year-old code base, maybe million lines of code in 2 days, and just I was just in 2 days started to make changes. That was not possible. Maybe last year or maybe just before the LLMs. It would take like a month or two to even make a small change. Now I went in and like on the second day, I'm starting to use that code base. So
Right, but what is legally, when you have to comply? Like, for example, all code bases, for example, are, have a lot, for space missions. I think we talked about the Apollo
Yeah.
control software, that was released a few years ago. Okay, and it's a case where we could do what you've done. Okay, but the thing that if we take this, modify it, and build a CubeSat or whatever, okay, still we have to pass some gates before being allowed to get on the rocket, stuff like that. Then how do we do? Okay, I don't know. I had a very interesting discussion recently on something called the space grade Linux. And so one of the problems there is to be able to use Linux everywhere, basically, for space missions. Okay? And it's very interesting because, well, then we have a Linux kernel and a lot of things we can do. A lot of people are familiar with that at a very advanced level, right? Okay? But the reason why space grade Linux exists is because basically, apparently, they have to review every line of code to pass some compliance and some legal or whatever organizational stages. Okay, and what you shared now reminds me of that. Is that well, if I can have the impression to go faster just by proceeding the same way. But at the end of the day, I can't deliver what I'm working on because after that, I will have to answer questions that I'm unable to answer. I don't know. I'm simplifying here because, of course, after the LLM can be a reference to which we ask the question directly, okay? Because it tell me where does this happen in the architecture, whatever, okay? And the LLM can pinpoint the line, okay? Maybe we can do that, okay? But personally, it's so far I haven't integrated enough those tools to be able to say whether that's enough.
it just depends on the cost, right? At least in the space. Like if you have like cheap rovers which you don't care if it's not functioning, maybe like a $2,000 rover, let's say, if you put a rover there, and
Yeah.
it won't matter if something goes wrong. But maybe like $1 billion rovers, it does matter. Uh, every line of code does matter. But like the one of the reasons for the increase in cost is exactly the reliability, assuredness, right? Like the
Yeah.
more you want to be sure that everything is just working as it should be, the more verification you have to do and more tests and other kinds of reliability tests you have to do. But it's like cheap enough or consumer grade, it doesn't matter that much.
Yeah, but
So I wouldn't be surprised. Oh, sorry, Mia, please.
no, all I wanted to say was you'd probably send me into space, and I'm sure that LLM is more reliable than I am. Maybe reliably bad, but still more reliable. So there's more than that because we're self-contained units, and we include functions of selection and correction. So if the Linux wasn't reliable as such, but it knew how to handle itself, it's not the way people look at code, but it's the way you look at people. You know, but people have to, mindset change.
Yeah, we have 2 more minutes left for the top of the hour. Do we want to discuss some more links? Something else?
I have a request, Anuraj. Can
Yeah.
you link where the code to get the self-balancing back on for the robot? Like, I want to mess around with the robot and see if I can get it back on the self-balancing because right now it's just dragging itself across the floor.
Yeah. So
Like a dog with
what we
an
have to
empty
do is take the original Tumblr code and then ask Claude, okay, we want a similar self-balancing code. but for the new board. So it will also, it's not just the code. You will also have to tune the PID parameters, because the IMU is not at the same locations and the moments might have changed. So the PID parameters would need to be tuned. I was on that task at some point, but then I haven't had time. But yeah, I can link the original Tumblr code, and I think there is a branch on the ESP32 code base, self-balancing, but it's like really dirty branch.
Can you, yeah.
So the Kalman filter code, basically, right?
Yeah, so it has some Kalman filter, and then the Kalman filter values are like passed on to the PID for self-balancing.
Yeah.
How do you do
The orientation.
balancing?
You are not audible, Rafa.
Can you hear me
The
now?
orientation of the IMU is also different, right?
Yeah,
I mean, some axes are flipped on the.
flipped. Yeah.
Can you, yeah. Do you know if there's any information online or like related to this that
I
would
think
help
like
me
Venkat
figure
might
out
be
how
the
to
best
do?
best person here with the PID knowledge. So like I've never like theoretically tuned a PID. I just like empirically tuned for my robots. Like yeah, just
Yeah.
put on values and then tuned it. But
So
if you
can you explain to me the empirical experience of that? Like, do I put it on the floor and it will either balance or unbalance, and then I have to like change the values? Is it like a manual like calibration?
Yeah, I think there is some process, but I have to check how. But yeah,
Okay.
like the last time we put some values, like it was just overshooting and the values, and then it was not like the dampening was not happening. So it would try to balance and it would fall on the other side. And yeah, so you
Okay.
need a
So
dampening factor to reduce it. But
and
yeah.
what is the
One thing that
language?
might help, Rafa, for your intuitions, I think about 6 months ago, we did a session on self-balancing and tuning, and I think I found a simulation that I posted in that thread. So
Okay.
look in history, and this is an online browser-based simulation that just allows you to set the PID parameters and get some intuition. So I think if you try and set the mass and moments approximately to equal the tumbler and then play around with the gains, you might be able to get some intuition. And just to give you an idea, that one we all tried, and I think Mayer was the only one who got it to actually balance. So it really is a little bit of trial and error.
Yeah. Okay. Now I have to go and catch a flight soon. But anything
Enjoy.
else we want to discuss?
Oh, one last note, Venkat. I'm gonna be in Michigan in July and August, and I wanted to like maybe meet some people in different robot labs. Is there anybody that you'd recommend that I might be able to reach out and like say, hello, I'm part of the Protocol Institute Robotic, Distributed Robotics. Would love to get a tour or talk to some people that are working on similar topics.
I mean, I haven't been in at the university since 2003, but yeah, there's lots
Whoa.
of. I mean, yeah, I finished my PhD in 2003. I went back once, so yeah, none of the professors are going to remember me. My advisor is dead.
Sorry.
He died in.
I'm sorry. My condolences.
But yeah, there's lots of really interesting and famous professors there. But
Is
for
that
your
a
interest, actually, I'm blanking on her name now. She's in the aerospace department. She has done a lot of work on regulations for drones, getting the FAA to approve like
yeah,
big stuff, that kind of stuff. So very practical stuff on.
yes.
Yeah, so I'll see if I don't know why I'm blanking, but yeah, she may remember me. I talked with her once just as I was.
Yeah, even if you can get me one name, I can research and cold call them and cold email them, and like I have pretty high success rate in like cold emailing like random professors from universities. So like I don't as long as I
I'll
can
give
get
you
a name. Yeah, try to find me a name, and then I'll swing by and go visit them.
Yep.
All right, sweet. Thank you.
Okay. See you. Bye.
Okay.